We're going to continue. Good Yontif, everyone. Chag Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha. Happy Passover, the remaining 2 days. Today we read the thrilling and unforgettable episode of the crossing of the Red Sea, where the Israelites in great haste cast off the chains and shackles of their servitude to Pharaoh, who finally permitted Moses to take them out of Egypt. But no sooner do they reach the banks of the Red Sea when they come face to face with crisis. As we read, Pharaoh again has undergone a change of heart. Our ancestors see behind them in full pursuit the hosts of the Egyptian army. Directly ahead, the surge of the angry and treacherous waters of the Red Sea. What are they to do? Where are they to turn? How are they to react to this new crisis? At that precise moment, as the Israelites stand in panic the Red Sea, the Egyptians behind them and the waters of the Red Sea as a wall in front of them, the sages of the Talmud record that 4 different opinions were expressed by our ancestors at the Red Sea. I know what you're saying. The Bible records that there were 600,000 Jews at the Red Sea. Why only 4 opinions? Maybe it means 4 million. Perhaps the Gemara has just not taken time to have a whole new Gemara just filled with those comments and has shortened it for our benefit to just 4. According to the Talmud, one group explained, "Let us plunge into the sea. There is no hope. Let us drown ourselves." A second group counseled flight. "Let us run away. Let us hide somewhere." Still others advised, "Let us face the Egyptians and make war against them." That means us with no arms against the Egyptian army with full arms. And a fourth opinion was, "Let's return to the slavery in Egypt." The Bible records that as the Israelites stood there in agonized consternation, Hashem rebuked Moses, saying, "Why do you cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites, let them go forward." The rabbis comment that in actuality, God was saying something like this to Moses. "Moses, why do the people express these varying opinions on the banks of the Red Sea? Why these 4 outcries of despair? Speak to Israel. Bid them to go forward. As I, Hashem, have helped them in the past, so too shall I guide them now." Every human being, every one of us at one time or another, must face a crossing of the Red Sea. Each of us, sooner or later, must cope with the challenge of crisis. How often in life do we reach the point of no return, as did the Israelites, perceiving, as it were, the Egyptians behind us and the waters of the surging sea in front of us? How often in life do we feel ourselves between hammer and anvil, adrift between Scylla and Charybdis? We know not what to do, where to turn, how to react. A young woman is stricken with cancer. A husband is taken away in the prime of his life. A precious child is plucked in the tender bloom of youth. We face a diagnosis that sounds daunting each time we face a crossing of the Red Sea. We suffer ill health, business reverses, a tormenting family problem, loneliness, rejection, danger, anger, hatred. We face each time a crossing of the Red Sea. There are moments in life when it seems that our entire world is shattered. Our whole universe is cracking and crumbling. What to do? How to react? How do we meet crisis? How often, when we come face to face with a crossing of the Red Sea, do we adopt the very same attitudes that our Israelite ancestors expressed in their moment of agony and despair at the sea? For some of us, alas, the first thought is, let us plunge into the sea. Let us destroy ourselves. Life is worthless, meaningless, senseless, and futile. We are better off dead. When my beloved Aunt Maxine had a brain aneurysm, my uncle could not cope. And within 6 months, he had willed himself to join her. But if there is no actual suicide, slow or sudden, then partial suicide is sometimes our immature solution. So we cut ourselves off from the world and society, spurning our closest friends. I did this for a brief time when I was widowed at 35 years of age. We harbor a sullen and bitter resentment in our hearts. We are incapable of deriving enjoyment from the pleasures of life. We callously neglect our homes and families, our businesses and civic responsibilities. We get mad at God and stop coming to shul, so that our nose gets cut off to spite our spiritual faces. Benjamin Franklin once made the comment, 9 men out of 10 are suicides. And I wonder to what degree that has been true for us at some point in our lives. How many of us in crisis are veritable suicides, not physically, but spiritually and emotionally? Thoreau observed, people everywhere lead lives of quiet desperation, but a life of desperation is not living life. This state of mind is also a form of partial suicide. The psychiatrist Carl Menninger, in his book, Man Against Himself, discusses bizarre forms of suicide that are not physical, but psychological and mental. He includes antisocial behavior, psychosis, alcoholism, purposeful accidents, seeking solace in drugs, self-mutilation, having a martyr complex. All of these, according to Dr. Menninger, can be forms of partial suicide that we select in our attempt to evade crossing the Red Sea. But as Alfieri remarked, the test of courage is not to die, but to live. A second attitude we adopt in the face of crisis was also expressed by our Israelite ancestors assembled on the banks of the Red Sea. Let us run away and hide. Escapism. How commonplace is this particular reaction to crisis? We wonder how we can possibly face our friends and associates after what has happened to us. For some inexplicable reason, we sometimes feel deeply ashamed or embarrassed. We want to run away and hide. People seem to be staring at us, we feel, or are talking behind our backs, or discussing our personal problems. I know a woman who lost her beloved husband. She did not know how to face this crossing of a Red Sea. She ran away and embarked on a 6-month cruise around the world. And when she returned, I asked her, "So new, did your cruise help you? Did it help you with terrible bereavement? Has it solved any of your problems?" And she replied, "Rabbi, no. I did not solve my problem by running away nor my grief. I merely postponed it. Somerset Maugham tells the story of a servant in Baghdad who one day in the marketplace sees the angel of death. And in fear and trepidation, he returns to the home of his master. I've seen the angel of death in the bazaar, he exclaims. I shall escape to Samarra, where the angel of death cannot find me. I leave at once. That afternoon, his master visited the bazaar to seek out the angel of death, finds him and rebukes him. Why did you make a threatening gesture toward my servant this morning? Oh, no, replied the angel of death. It was not a threatening gesture at all. It was an indication of surprise. I was amazed to find it in Baghdad, for I have an appointment with him this evening in Samarra. There is no escape from meeting crisis. We can neither hide nor run away from it. And the test of courage is not to hide nor escape, but to live. A third counsel we adopt in the face of crossing the Red Sea is let us fight against the Egyptians. When a crisis occurs, so many of us want to fight back, protest, strike out, and complain bitterly and unceasingly about the utter injustice of our fate. We refuse to accept that which has come to pass. If we take no medications, then we must not be sick, we think. And so we go about life with a chip on our shoulder. We make intemperate use of the word if. If the doctor had only discovered the malignancy 6 months ago, our beloved would still be alive. If we had only evinced more consideration for our father or mother, we would not be overburdened with a sense of profound guilt. If we had gotten the rabbi involved a little bit sooner, perhaps the life could have been spared. If we had not embarked on that automobile trip, the accident would not have occurred. On and on we go with our ifs, as if they're changing any reality or helping us to cope better with them. The story is told of a Marine who during World War II had served his country valiantly in the Pacific. He had fought with distinction in the Guadalcanal and at the Solomon Islands. Captured by the Japanese for 2 long, intolerable years, he suffered the tortures and privations of a prison camp. After he was liberated, a friend asked him, when you were languishing in that Japanese prison camp, did you not fight back? Did you not protest and complain? No, answered the Marine. I did not complain, for I was in a place where complaint could not possibly help. The test of courage is not complaint or futile protest, but to live. A fourth and final counsel we adopt in the face of a crossing of a Red Sea is let us go back to Egypt. Let us return to slavery and servitude. So many of us attempt to evade crisis by retreating to the hidden recesses of the past. We act, for example, as if our beloved loved ones were still alive. We slowly withdraw from reality and live in a dream world of our own obsessions and our own making. We fondle the pictures of our beloved, their clothing, books, and furniture, all that was precious. We don't even want to clean them or vacuum, as if we'll be vacuuming and wiping away memories or even reality. We travel again and again to the places that we once visited together. Thomas Wolfe, in his novel, Look Homeward, Angel, tells us that we cannot go home again or retreat into the false security of the never to be fully recaptured past. Have you ever experienced the shock of disillusionment upon returning to the scene of your childhood home? I have. And I discovered that my home was actually smaller than I imagined it to be. The neighborhood was not really as beautiful as I thought it was, or as grandiose as I had held in my mind's eye. The home hadn't changed that much. The neighborhood hadn't changed that much in the years of absence. What changed? I did. I changed with the passage of years. You can't go home again. You can't seek solace or comfort in a past that has not been around for years. We can't retreat into the illusions of childhood, for they do not exist. The test of courage is not to retreat, but to live. So these are the four main attitudes we so often adopt in the face of crisis, the very same ones that the panic-stricken Israelites resorted to when the Egyptians threatened from behind and the waters of the Red Sea surged up before them. The Torah records that HaShem rebuked our ancestors. Why do you cry out? Go forward. And in the face of crisis, this is the counsel of religion. Not retreat, not complaint, but to move forward. The Torah doesn't spell that out exactly. The Midrash says that Nachshon ben Aminadav felt the courage of moving forward and the spiritual holiness of the moment, what it demanded, and started walking into the Red Sea. And only once the waters got above his neck did the waters part. Our ancestors moved forward. We can't spell that out here for each and every one of us, for each and every circumstance, what moving forward means or what it looks like. But whatever comes to pass, we must believe in some way as part of a divine plan. We must regard each tragedy as a stepping stone to greater maturity and deeper wisdom. For the test of courage is to move forward and live. So God commanded Moses at the Red Sea, lift up your staff upon the waters. When we face a crossing of the Red Sea, we must cease crying and go forward. In the words of the prophet, though I am fallen, I shall rise again. Though I now dwell in darkness, God is my light. As we face the Red Seas of our lives, may we pass the test of courage and move forward. May we have the courage to see God's beacon of light and hear God's call. May we have the courage to live.